So last week I spoke a little bit about what I've learned over the years that I've been traveling around rocking and rolling, rock up and rolling at the open mats. And this week I'm going to be talking about cross training, which is where the freediving kind of comes in. So I've got some questions that I'm going to answer, some that people have sent me, so I'm going to answer a couple of those. And then I'm going to talk about what I think cross training can help with jiu-jitsu. But I'm not going to talk from my experience of jiu-jitsu particularly. It's more my knowledge of sports coaching that I do with the freediving and how that impacts the way I think about jiu-jitsu. Okay. So I'm a professional coach, freediving coach, sports coach, and my ideas about that influence what I do in jiu-jitsu, and so that's kind of why this one's called teaching and cross training. Okay, so before we start, let's have a look at a couple of these questions that we had. So let's go with this one. So 3 weeks ago, SA1513 asked on one of my videos, and you'll see why I'm starting with the old one first. Have you got your brown belt yet? No, I haven't got my brown belt. I'm not in any particular rush to get it, but 2020 is not a year for promotions. The consistency of training is just not there. The next question was about a month ago. That Ash asked, when you go to so many gyms, who decides when you're ready to get promoted? Okay, so I think I answered that last week, or the week before maybe. So I have my instructor who I've been with, and I'm a member of that gym, and that's where I get promoted. And it's a small enough gym where the lead instructor, head instructor, is my instructor, and he sees me every week and rolls with me and is looking for very specific things for me to do to get my next stripe or belt. And I have one-to-one lessons with him, and he says, Marcus, you want to be working on this, working on that. So that's when I go away and train with the other gyms or other instructors. I'm always consciously thinking, I really need to work on that aspect so that I get a nice kind of rounded training. I'm super blessed that I can train at Roger Gracie's, and in particular I train quite a lot with Junior. So his advice and his teaching is kind of, second to none in the world. So but he would never consider grading me. That's the job of Tom at Ray Stevens Academy. He's my instructor. He's the one who grades me, and everything I learn from other instructors, and Owen, I'm doing loads of no-gi at the moment with Owen. It just fills in the gaps that Tom wants to see. Okay, so the reason I kind of, I think I answered one of them a couple of weeks ago, but that fits in with TJ Babel, who asks, now you're approaching the advanced belts, do you ever consider teaching? If so, would your freedive coaching experience translate at all? So yes, absolutely, it does influence quite a lot. And in fact, I took Junior, one of my instructors, freediving last year. We went to Egypt, and I made a video of it, so you can watch that. It's BJJ versus the ocean, and he had no prior freediving experience, and we took him out of Egypt, and he just dived with us and started from scratch and learned and dived. He went to the pool a couple of times before we went out there just to make sure he could swim. It's quite funny because there is a point where Roger Gracie says, it's Roger Gracie's academy that Junior teaches at, and I mentioned it to Roger, and he said, oh, well, yeah, we're a bit surprised he went because, he can't swim. And I was like, what? He never mentioned he couldn't swim, but he could, and it was all fine. But this is what Junior said after coming back. So I asked him directly, how does freediving, so this is 1 week of freediving, how does freediving affect your jiu-jitsu?
One thing happening was like my movements, as I was training, my movements was clinical, like very precise. So that's, for me, that's mean my brain was clean. The holidays was a meditation, and that moment is just you swimming around there. No, you don't think in anything else apart of that moment. It was like a meditation. So when I come back, my brain was sharp.
And that's just the first point that he was talking about, and in the video he talks about other things as well. But it's a meditation. It's the ability to get rid of everything else and think about what's in front of you. And this is pretty ultimate to all sports. Okay? The more you practice, the more you have experience of a sport. You can actively, consciously strip away the parts that are kind of irrelevant. And in jiu-jitsu, it's really noticeable that you go to a place and you see somebody's belt and you instantly make assumptions about it. And as you start rolling, those are obviously you have to make an assumption when you slap bump, because if they're a white belt, you don't want to kind of jump in there with a flying triangle. So you've got to have some sort of presumption, and that's kind of what the belt system's for. It's letting you know that the person, what kind of level they're at. But as soon as you start rolling, you have to let that presumption kind of go away, slide away, because they might be a white belt, but they might be super strong. They might be a white belt, but they might be a black belt in judo. Equally well, they might be a black belt, and I rolled with a black belt at the end of last year. A black belt came to the lesson, and Tom, my instructor, said, "Oh, can you roll with him?" Yeah, of course, no worries. And said, kind of go easy on him, and was genuinely like, I mean, when can you roll with this black belt? Go easy on him. You kind of like, yeah. But he was genuine, going to go easy on him. So he was a black belt, but he had come back from 2 years off, quite a major injury. So you make your assumption, oh, it's black belt, yeah. But my instructor obviously trusted me that I wouldn't kind of go in there with a flying triangle, and these are the skills, this clear thought process that we get from freediving, that we can carry straight over to jiu-jitsu. And I teach this. I actually go to jiu-jitsu academies and teach these skills. I also teach breathing techniques, which help a lot. Interesting things like, as soon as you breathe through your mouth, you're in survival mode, which is fine if it's a competition, or if it's an actual a bout or MMA fight or whatever it is. If it's the final thing you're aiming for. But in training, you're in fight or flight, so you're not learning. It's impossible for the body to learn, or the subconscious to learn, if you're breathing through your mouth, because as soon as you do, your body changes format into fight or flight. Okay? So it's super important if you're training to just breathe through your nose. And yeah, as soon as you cross over, that's it. You're not training anymore. I mean, obviously, sometimes if somebody's beating you senselessly, then the ability to survive is a good one, which is you can use that for that. Anyway, I digress quite a lot. So that was a question from TJ. How does freedive coaching translate? It does translate, and I teach specific skills from freediving that people can use in jiu-jitsu. And then Soel said, and I think this came through last week, but during the live feed, how do you adjust your training when moving from blue to purple belt? And that's kind of interesting question, because I can't answer that. Again, well, I suppose I can answer it because I'm just about to answer it. As you slap and bump, you make presumptions, and wearing a blue strap or a purple strap will change your presumptions. But how I change my training, it's a very smooth transition through the belts, and I personally believe it should be. If there's a jump, then you're kind of missing something at the end of your blue belt training. That it should be moving into it. Tom, for instance, my instructor, he allows in the upper white belts that you can start kind of looking at wrist locks, which are not legal until blue belt, but that saves that jump that when you put the blue belt on, bang, everybody's going to put a lot of wrist locks on you, and you've got no idea where they're coming from. And again, so moving at the higher levels of purple, he allows straight leg locks when you're playing against higher level purples or browns. Again, so it's not just a big kind of change. But realistically, I didn't adjust my training. It's a smooth curve. I know what I want to work on. I'm always looking at what I should be doing, and it's never, I don't think, with freediving or with jiu-jitsu, I don't think there's ever a point where you go, I've got that technique down, I can put it to one side. It's always okay, I've got that technique, it works sometimes, or rather it works quite a lot on white belts, so you try it on blue belts. Okay, I've got the nuances to get it there, and then when you're purple, it's like, okay, I've got this technique that works on people the same level as me. Okay, let's try it on with the brown belts. And that technique is still developing, and then someday I'm hoping that I might get a technique on a black belt. But you never know. Okay. And do I ever consider teaching? Well, that's a separate question. No, I don't really. I'm not interested in teaching jiu-jitsu as such. I'm quite happy to help out, and I'm always happy if somebody asks me a question. I'm happy to kind of share my knowledge, but as for putting my name on the class list, Marcus is taking this lesson, it's not what I do jiu-jitsu for. I do a lot of that with freediving, so my time for me is jiu-jitsu. So I have taken some sessions, if the instructor got caught in traffic or something, and I get a phone call, Marcus, at your session, can you take a session? Of course I can, absolutely, help them out. I never really teach techniques when I do that. It's always a mindset that I'm working for. It's always a mindset that I'm kind of trying to teach, a thought process. Okay, everybody roll, stop where you are. Where are you trying to get to? What's stopping you getting there? And then carry on rolling. Everybody stop. Okay, where are you trying to get to? And what's stopping you? As opposed to, teaching this, this grip is better than that grip. I mean, obviously, if I'm rolling with somebody and they do a silly grip, then I'm going to say, yeah, you change that. But as a teacher, I'm not interested in teaching classes as such. Having said that, I am interested, and I already do, to take this philosophy and teach that. And if anybody's got a gym that they're interested in the philosophy or the breathing techniques, please message me. And next year, happy to come around to your gym and do some lessons about the philosophy, the idea of jiu-jitsu training, and the breathing techniques in there, and kind of put. So that's more of a kind of one-off thing, or 2 or 3 sessions, but very specific subjects, rather than just teaching jiu-jitsu, which I'm not really interested in. Okay, so on that idea, it goes to cross-training. So my idea of cross-training, I teach this quite a lot. Well, I teach it a lot with freediving. My idea of cross-training is that there's not that much for sake of argument, cardio fitness. It's very hard to get cardio fitness. Cardio fitness is very specific. So it's very hard to get cardio fitness for jiu-jitsu by doing pretty much anything else. Okay? But you can tailor your cross training to jiu-jitsu or to freediving. So for sake of argument, single-sided sports are not going to be good for jiu-jitsu. Okay, so single-sided sports, I mean for tennis, because you're only really using one hand. Obviously, when you become really good at tennis, they're going to train the other side as well, but that's not what we're looking at. We're looking at using tennis for jiu-jitsu. Okay, so it's one-sided. Same with golf or cricket or baseball. Okay, so you want an all-body exercise that kind of matches both sides. So, football, American football, any of these, that'd be quite good. For me, my personal favourite cross-training for jiu-jitsu will be caving. Okay, climbing comes in close second, but for me, caving is king. Cycling is, I mean, if you've got a bike and you like cycling, then go cycling. I'm not saying don't go cycling, it's bad for jiu-jitsu, but what I'm saying is when you go cycling, you tend to cycle for an hour at quite a consistent kind of pace, and you kind of come back and it's fine, and you cycle for an hour. But with something like caving, you will be walking, keeping the heart rate reasonable, and all of a sudden you'll have to climb down a waterfall and your heart rate goes up. You're using your grips, you're using your strength, you're using your weight, you're using your balance. Okay? And it's really instinctive. So this is really good. It's ingraining good technique. If you're hanging on a waterfall and you're climbing down and you lean back too far, you're going to fall off. So you instinctively keep yourself in. Okay, and stretching, using the hands, same as climbing, but I'll tell you why I like caving better than climbing in a minute. And then when you get to that bottom of that waterfall, you might stand around, help the other people, and then you walk on. So that's it. You get to the bottom of the cave, you turn around, and then you come back. So it's interval training. So you're walking, climbing, walking, climbing, walking, climbing. There's a definite kind of time to the exercise. It's not like if you're doing weights, if you're like, I'm knackered, I'm going to finish now, and you can put the weights down, that's fine. Okay, I'm not saying weights are bad, but there's not really a definite time. You can finish at any point. If you're in a cave and you're not at the surface, you've got to carry on until you're at the surface, else you're not not at the surface. So you get yourself into a position where you have to kind of climb out. The difference between caving and climbing is climbing down is technically difficult, but not necessarily as effort, kind of energy wise, strength wise. Whereas climbing out is technically easier, but you have to hoik your body weight up, however high you're going. Right? So in climbing, you tend to climb up and then abseil down. In caving, you have to climb down, which is difficult, technically difficult. You have to be on it, and then climb back up. It's hard work. Okay. So my personal choice is caving. There are other exercises out there that are fantastic, but that's why I like caving as cross training for jiu-jitsu, and that's how I've kind of installed it. So, a couple of questions coming through. What are the 3 core points about BJJ philosophy? Okay, well, that's on the fly. Let's just go through. Let's go through them, and hopefully there'll be 3, maybe there'll be 4, I don't know. So I'm literally doing this. So JSM Instant Coaching says, what are your 3 core points about philosophy? So, number 1 for me is it's a sport. Out of the thousands of people who train jiu-jitsu, only a tiny percentage of them are professional, okay, or even amateur, where you know, difference between amateur and professionals, you know, kind of a blurred line, okay. So only a very few of them are high amateur or professional, and even those people, whether they're MMA fighters or pure jiu-jitsu, it doesn't matter. 99% of their roles are not in competition. So a vast majority of all jiu-jitsu roles are for fun. Okay? They're training, yeah, and you want to improve and you want to get something out of them, but they are fun. That's my number one kind of thing. It's a sport. So if you go in with this mentality, doesn't matter how big or angry or scary the situation is, it's a sport and it's got rules. That's the main one. You tap, you finish. Okay? It's you know, it's the ultimate rule. So if you don't like the situation, if you just don't like the fact that they got their sweaty belly in your face, just tap and just say, I'm not up for this today, because I'm doing this for fun. Okay? Even if you're a high amateur, unless it's in the ring, ring I suppose, or if it's on the mat, if it's actually in a competition, then that's different. But 99% of them it's not, because as soon as you don't want to be there, in your subconscious, next time you go to leave the house, your subconscious is going to remember, oh yeah, but you didn't enjoy it last time. And these thoughts build up. Okay. So in fact, I've just read Kitty says, experiencing crippling anxiety before class and upset that I don't love jiu-jitsu like everyone was. I don't like fighting. I come from dance. How can I rewire myself to love jiu-jitsu? Exactly this. In fact, Kitty, watch my live stream from last week about finding a class that you enjoy. Okay, find people you enjoy rolling with. Okay, and work out why you don't like it. Now, you got a name Kitty. I'm guessing you're a lady, so I'm guessing, and this is complete. I've never met you. There's a lot of big sweaty guys in there, and believe me, it's not fun for anybody to roll with big sweaty guys. But it's like even worse if you're smaller. Okay. So find a club that does soft rolling. Find a club that really pushes the technique over the wins. Okay. So and you can always tell that club, because you roll with the senior grades in that class, and if you enjoy rolling with them, then you're going to probably enjoy rolling with the rest of the crew. But the joy is, if you roll with a higher grades, the instructors and stuff, you shouldn't, in theory, get injured. So you can relax a little bit more with them and just go, actually, I do like this person's rolling. Get 2 or 3 people in that club, the higher grades that you enjoy rolling with. You probably enjoy rolling with everybody else, because that's the way they roll. Okay, so rewire yourself to love jiu-jitsu? No. Just find a jiu-jitsu that you love, a club that you love, etc., etc. Now, I don't know where you live, but for instance, Donna, however you want to pronounce the name, Gonzalez in San Diego runs an insanely cool no-gi class. So she used to teach at 10th Planet headquarters, HQ, and you could tell she got that kind of vibe going, because she started teaching the kids, and there was 2 or 3 of them, and then there was 4 or 5 of them, 6 or 7, and hang on a sec, there's a few girls in there, and then like 8 or 9, and then 10 or 12. Hang on a sec, there's 50% girls, 50% guys, and she was turning out beasts. I mean, she's a beast herself, but she just had that vibe going on, that it was fun and kind of playful. But the people that were coming out of her classes were, they were beasts. So big up to Donna. Okay. But I know there's other people out there teaching it like that. And look at this. I mean, look at this. JSM says, salsa teacher, and you need a proper environment where people welcome you. That's exactly it. Where you feel safe from making tons of mistakes. Exactly. And salsa, it's exactly the same with salsa. I've never done salsa, but I know there's only a few people out there who make a living from salsa. 99.99% of people do it for fun. Okay, so you've got to remember that. You go in there and we're just doing this for fun. Okay, I made a mistake. It really doesn't matter. Okay, the only difference is with jiu-jitsu, that there's actually a physical danger to you. So you've got that option to kind of get out. But he's exactly right, Jason. He, her, whoever it is. Now you've got to find a safe environment where you feel safe. Not safe like from bodily harm, but where hang on a sec. I think I've got the graphic where ego is not the issue. Okay? You should be able to and in fact you can go to a jiu-jitsu academy and you can tell whether it's the right one. You look around and see if the brown belts will tap into the blue belts. Not to the white belts, because they're probably teaching, if they're a brown belt, they're probably teaching a white belt and they're going to be showing them techniques. But will a brown belt tap out to a blue belt? You look around. Yeah. Again, black belts probably tap out to everybody because they're probably teaching. But, that's what you're looking for, where the main thing is not ego. Ego, kill it. Absolutely kill it. Anyway, did I digress? No, we're talking about cross-training and teaching. So, no, I was talking about my 3 points about BJJ philosophy. Number 2, train correctly. Okay? So train correctly. And you will only improve if you have the 3 A's. You have to be aware. You have to have acknowledgement. And you have to have adaptation. So you have to be aware of what you're doing and what you want to do, okay, and how it's working. You have to acknowledge it. So if an instructor says to you, "Oh, your kind of arm bars are rubbish," yeah, whatever, yeah, but to actually acknowledge it, thank you very much for telling me that. Maybe you can give some tips. Okay, that's really acknowledging it, and then you've got to have time for adaptation, which quite a lot of that is not on the mat. Okay, it's thinking about it during the day. It's having a day off. Let it soak in. Watch a video. Ask your instructor. Have a lesson, whatever. So, got to be aware. You've got to acknowledge it, and then you've got to adapt. Okay, and you can fit them into however you want. So that's my number 2. And number 3 is objectives. Always have a sensible objective, because then all of a sudden training isn't just rolling, it's rolling with a purpose. It's purposeful practice. Okay? And these ideas are not new. There's a fantastic book by Matthew Syed called Bounce that I guarantee you should read it. Every single one of you. Read Bounce by Matthew Syed. It explains the psychology of sport and how to learn. Okay. So thank you guys for good advice. I'm in Vegas. I see, yes, few people roll are brutal, even one film. I hate rolling. Oh man, you're in Vegas. You check out 10th Planet in LA. I mean it seriously. If you can get yourself over to 10th Planet HQ, the vibe they've got going on there, maybe it's some marijuana, I don't know, but the vibe they've got there is very, very inclusive. So I'm not suggesting you make the journey to HQ, 10th Planet HQ every week, okay? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying go there to check out the vibe, because I found the vibe there is that kind of informative, playful, moving, progressive kind of, people. Okay, so I'm going to stick with that. there, JSM. They're my 3 points. Proper, purposeful practice. Okay, be aware of what you're doing, acknowledge it, adapt it, and number 1 is remember you're doing this for fun. Okay? You're doing this for fun. And if it ain't fun, you're doing something wrong. Okay? One little note, just a recap of what I said before about injuries. People say if you're not going hard, then you might as well go home. But, there's a fine line between hard and aggressive. And aggressive means you're going to get injured. And if you get injured and you take time off, you're not training at all. Okay? So it's better to roll soft and learn 70% of what you would if you were rolling really hard all the time, because every time you get injured, you're going to go back to zero learning because you ain't rolling. Okay, so Ted, do you spend time stretching? I spend a lot of time stretching. And you're about as flexible as a dry twig. Fantastic. Yeah. But stretching, so you can do yoga. Yoga's fantastic. Yoga is meditative stretching, okay, with postures and strength and body awareness. It's beautiful. If you're up for it, do it. It's brilliant. If you're not up for it, there's no point in me saying do it. Okay, if you're not up for it, you're not going to do it. Okay? So what I try to do, I try to find ways that I can put stretching into my daily routine. So if I'm reading a book, I try and sit in either half lotus or in butterfly stretch, just for the first 5 minutes of reading before I kind of sit down on the sofa, or I'll do a forward bend and just get my posture correct, and then just kind of think about the day before I go to bed. So I spend a lot of time stretching, but I don't say, okay, today I'm going to do an hour stretching. I try to integrate it with my daily routine, and then all of a sudden it's kind of part of me and part of what I'm doing, okay? As opposed to, sorry, I can't come to the pub tonight, I am stretching. Right? It fits in with my daily routine, okay? And you will notice a difference so quickly, okay? Yeah, you so will. We've gone over time. Okay, so Serbia, yes. Okay, Serbia. That's it. I'm coming to Serbia. I've been there before. I'm going to write this down. I'm going to make a note of this. So, I'm literally going to do this live. I'm copying, and so Gile. Yeah, I'm taking you up on the offer because I've been to Serbia diving a few times. Number 3 sport. Objective number 3, yeah. Okay, so I'll leave this running. So if you've got any more questions, I'd love to answer them next week. I'm really enjoying doing these. It really makes me think about my training and what I'm doing in it and why I'm doing it, which is objectives. Fantastic. So thank you very much for joining me. Please like, subscribe, watch some of my other videos. Yeah. Any more BJJ travel vlogs? Yes. As soon as we're allowed to travel, I will be doing travel vlogs. I've got some fantastic ideas, but we just really can't travel. I was looking at doing 10 academies in a week, and I've got it all lined up. But it just looks really bad. I look like a super spreader if I just do 10 academies. But having said that, we've now got testing, so I might be able to do 10 academies in 5 days. So even if I catch COVID on the first day, I won't be able to spread it in the 5 days. So I am doing it. Honestly, I've got it planned. 2021 is my travel vlogs jiu-jitsu year. Okay, so thanks very much. And hopefully you'll join me next week. I haven't decided what I'm going to do. Any ideas about what you want me to talk about? Any questions? Put it in the comments, and I'll try and answer them next week. Okay, so thanks a lot. Cheers. See you later.